The dense forest of whispering pines was known for its eerie silence and haunting beauty. Few dared venture deep into its depths, afraid of the stories that whispered through the tall trees. But for seasoned hiker Emma Harris, the allure of the unknown was too tempting to resist. Setting out on a solo trek through the heart of whispering pines, Emma carried her backpack and trusty trail camera, eager to capture the elusive wildlife that roamed the woods. As she navigated the winding paths, the sunlight filtering through the canopy cast a dappled glow on the forest floor, painting a picture of serenity and solitude. But as evening descended, the peaceful ambience of the forest shifted, a subtle unease creeping into Emma's mind. The silence grew oppressive, broken only by the rustle of leaves in the wind. Ignoring the whispers of doubt, Emma pressed on, determined to reach her campsite before nightfall. As the shadows deepened, Emma finally found a clearing to set up her tent. The air grew colder, the woods taking on a sinister edge under the pale moonlight. Shaking off her unease, Emma checked her trail camera, hoping to find some comfort in the familiar routine of reviewing the day's footage. Her heart skipped a beat as the first images flashed on the screen. The usual array of deer and birds had been replaced by something far more unsettling. In the dim light of the forest, the camera had captured strange shapes moving in the shadows, their forms twisted and unnatural. A chill ran down Emma's spine as she scrolled through the footage, each frame more disturbing than the last. Figures emerged from the darkness, their faces obscured by masks and robes, their movements jerky and erratic. In the background, a low chanting filled the air, echoing through the trees like a malevolent prayer. With a growing sense of dread, Emma realized she was not alone in Whispering Pines. The inhabitants of the forest were watching her, their malevolent presence palpable in every frame of the recording. Gathering her courage, Emma packed up her gear, determined to flee the cursed woods before it was too late. But as she turned to leave, a cold hand closed around her wrist, freezing her in place. Before her stood a figure draped in shadows, its face a twisted mask of agony and rage. The creature's eyes bore into her soul, its voice a guttural whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "You have trespassed in our domain, mortal," the creature hissed, its grip tightening on Emma's wrist. "You shall pay the price for your curiosity with your very soul." Emma struggled against the creature's hold, her heart pounding in terror. With a desperate cry, she broke free and ran, the creature's malevolent laughter echoing through the trees behind her. Branches tore at her clothes, roots reached up to trip her, but she pressed on, driven by fear and adrenaline. As she burst into the clearing where her car was parked, Emma's heart sank. The forest had changed around her, the once familiar landscape now alien and hostile. The trees seemed to leer down at her, their twisted branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. With a sinking feeling, Emma realized she was trapped in Whispering Pines, at the mercy of its sinister inhabitants. But she refused to give in to despair, her survival instinct kicking in as she searched for a way out. The trail camera hung heavily around her neck, a chilling reminder of the horrors she had witnessed. As she stumbled through the woods, a sudden burst of light pierced the darkness, illuminating a path ahead. Following the faint glow, Emma found herself standing before a decrepit cabin, its windows boarded up and its walls covered in symbols of unknown origin. Hesitant but desperate, Emma pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The air was thick with the stench of decay, the sound of scratching and skittering echoing from the shadows. Ignoring the mounting fear in her chest, Emma pressed on, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. In the center of the room stood a figure cloaked in darkness, its form indistinct and ephemeral. As Emma approached, the figure turned to face her, revealing a faceless void where its features should have been. A sense of wrongness washed over her, the air growing heavy and oppressive. "You were warned, mortal," the figure intoned, its voice a hollow whisper that sent ice through Emma's veins. "You have trespassed where you do not belong, and now you must face the consequences." With a wave of its hand, the figure summoned a swirling vortex of darkness, sucking Emma into its depths. She felt herself plummeting through an endless void, the sensation of falling overwhelming her senses. Her screams were lost in the void, swallowed by the darkness that consumed her. When she awoke, Emma found herself lying on the forest floor, the sunlight filtering through the trees above. The trail camera lay at her side, its screen cracked and flickering. As she picked it up, a sense of dread washed over her, the memory of her harrowing ordeal still fresh in her mind. With trembling hands, Emma reviewed the footage once more, watching in horror as the events of the night played out before her eyes. But this time, there was no sign of the figures in the shadows, no trace of the malevolent presence that had haunted her. As she scrolled through the footage, Emma's heart skipped a beat. In the final frame, a message appeared on the screen, written in blood-red letters. "You have been warned, mortal. Leave Whispering Pines, or face the consequences." With a sinking feeling, Emma realized that her encounter with the forest's dark inhabitants was far from over. As she gathered her things and prepared to leave, a chill wind whispered through the trees, carrying a faint echo of laughter on its breath. Whispering Pines had claimed a piece of her soul that night, a price she would carry with her forever. And as she drove away, the forest watched in silence, its secrets hidden in the shadows, waiting to ensnare the next unsuspecting wanderer who dared to venture into its depths.